We all crave adventure to add excitement to our lives. But extreme sports like mountain climbing and paragliding demand nerves of steel and a cool head for heights. Whether gliding, sliding or falling, the danger and our fear of heights keeps most of us firmly on the ground. For those of us that want to feel the fear without the danger, this is where we can go. Here you can fall, slide and glide without risking your neck. Every year, around 600 million people flock to theme parks all over the world with one thing in mind: terror.
Theme parks exist to give you a bit of escapism. You have your normal Monday to Friday life, you go to school or you go to work. Come the weekend, you can forget about that and go and live in another world.
We are used to walking around this world with the normal force of gravity acting on our body. As soon as you start to generate other forces in this way, this is a fun experience for a lot of people, and that's partly what gives people a buzz coming to a theme park and riding a theme park ride.
All the time you're on the rides, you're just doing things that your body doesn't normally do. On a Monday at lunchtime, you're not tend to be 100 feet up in the air and going upside down, so it just gives you that escape from reality.
I'm definitely an adrenaline junkie. I do coasters over and over again just to get the adrenaline rush.
The whole thing is just about having fun, and there's so much seriousness in the world today. It's great to get out there, get on a ride and just have a laugh.
Theme park rides are specifically designed to excite the senses. They use a mixture of speed, height and disorientation to test your nerves. It's how our bodies respond to the laws of physics, as well as our fear of heights, that give the rides their effect.
Spinning rides can spin in all manner of directions. Nowadays you can spin in all ways in one ride. You'll be going upside down, round and round on an arm that's spinning in the opposite direction, on a whole platform that's going the other way while the whole thing rotates upside down. You can go in every possible combination.
Spinning and twisting rides are deliberately designed to affect your sense of balance.
Everybody is very familiar with that bizarre sensation when you're spinning round in a circle of apparently being spun out to make you feel twice as heavy or half as heavy as you normally feel. This is a fun experience for a lot of people.
We have small tubes in our ears called semicircular canals that keep us balanced. When you're sitting on one of these rides, your brain knows your body isn't moving, but fluid in these canals is swirling around telling your brain that you're spinning. So there's a confusion between what your eyes see and what your brain believes. This is disorientation.
It's a nice stomach churning ride, very good.
Getting thrown around a little bit.
Oh, it feels as though you're going to go woo.
But once you've had your fill of spinning rides, it's time for something more extreme.
Roller coasters are, of course, king of the park. They always are the biggest rides, they always have the longest lines, they're always the ones that people rush to the park to visit.
There is something about the roller coaster which always makes it the star turn, and in everybody's minds it is the ultimate challenge.
Colossus, the world's first 10 looping coaster at Thorpe Park, is certainly a frightening prospect. As you're thrown around for 56 seconds at 74 kilometers an hour, you barely have time to draw breath. This roller coaster ride is a combination of the best parts of the other scary theme park rides. To build tension on the coaster on the left, designers take the slow haul up the first hill from the water ride on the right, allowing gravity to take over as you plunge down the first drop at high speed. They borrow the fast rolls on the coaster from the high-speed spinning ride, forcing you into your seat. And designers use the disorientation effect of this swinging, twisting ride as you tumble down the coaster corkscrew. So Colossus takes you on a journey that includes the most exciting aspects of all the other rides in one amazing coaster. And for some, it's that mixture of sensations that gives the buzz.
When I rode my first coaster, I was about 7 or 8, and it was Dragon Khan in Port Aventura in Spain.
Kerry Ann Bestow has been a coaster addict for years. She's about to take on the park's biggest challenge.
It's definitely the danger aspect that makes you really excited. The most important things on a ride are G's, because they basically affect how you feel when you're on the ride, and speed is also a good aspect that makes it a lot better. Oh, I hate this bit. When you get off it, you know, the excitement is usually still there and you just want to do it again. It was great, especially sitting in the front, all the G's that get thrown right at you, it makes it an amazing experience.
Now we know why we ride these machines and why they scare us. The next step is creating a modern-day coaster.
One thing that's been really useful in coaster design is computers. Before computers were invented, they literally built hills and dips just at random, and somebody would take a chance and sit on the cart and go for it. They may never come back. Not saying they died, but it never made it around the track, or it fell off the track and so on. So they just make some modifications and try again and try again. They would keep on trying until they had the ride sorted. Now, of course, you can enter all the details into the computer as to what type of ride you're trying to create, and the computer will simulate, work out, will it actually make it around the tracks? Will the G-force be too high? Will it go too fast? And then it can keep tweaking the design on the computer before they spend £10 million bending the steel or the wood to create that ride.
So how did the designer come up with a ride that was guaranteed to excite?
First of all, we think of who it is we're trying to entertain, what we're trying to achieve, what sort of emotions, whether it is going to be a family ride for everybody, or whether it's going to be a fairly hard, intimidating, teenage white knuckle ride.
Some people will look at a roller coaster that goes upside down 10 times and say, no way am I going on that. And they'll look at a wooden roller coaster which just has a lot of dips and twists and turns, and they'll think, that looks like fun, I'll go on that.
Once we've decided on what we want and where we're going to put it, then that's when we start to dream up ideas and imagine how we can do things in an innovative way. Once I've got an idea in my mind, I'll start to lay it out on the site using the computer and the site survey, producing it in 3 dimensions, in plan, in profile, in what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like, how it's going to be decorated and so on. And then gradually the whole project matures from there. From past experience, I know more or less what will work, how much energy will be consumed in the train in order to get around a certain configuration, and have a pretty good idea that what we are conceiving is not a crazy pipe dream. And then a number of suppliers will be shortlisted who will then be given the task of doing a design feasibility study, and they will then run the dynamics through their computers. So they will take our layout and profile and they will then check that it will work. They will be making modifications and we will be accommodating those modifications on site, making sure that we miss crucial trees and features and so on, and backwards and forwards over a period of weeks or months, whilst their engineers are doing the sums and number crunching to make sure that the ride will physically work. We're tying this in with the very complicated planning process in order to get planning consent for the ride, and eventually we come up with the perfect design, which then in fact makes everybody happy and will make our guests happy.
Once John knew how he wanted the ride to feel, it was time for the engineers to get involved. And one company was at the top of his list. Carrying millions of people to inaccessible mountainsides has given Swiss engineers the necessary experience with steel, wheels, cables and pulleys to design efficient and safe rides worldwide.
The Swiss have a huge amount of expertise getting people up Alps, down Alps, round Alps and through Alps.
For many, many years they've been building ski lifts and chair lifts, all the things that you find in ski resorts. And once they'd kitted out all the ski resorts, they then had to think of what to do next. And if you look at roller coaster design, it's very similar. They have tubular steel supports and so on. It's just they've taken the ski lift to a little bit more extreme and made it a little bit exciting.
We have to take people on very efficient, high-speed transit systems around all sorts of tortuous circuits, and there's no doubt whatsoever that the Swiss are probably the best at doing it.
The Swiss company Intermin has been building coasters for more than 30 years. Along this wall are hundreds of drawers holding thousands of plans. Until recently, these were all drawn by hand. As computer-aided design has advanced, hand drawings and calculations have become redundant. Massive copies of the computer-generated plans are printed out and sent off to be used during construction. For designers, computers have revolutionized the process. However, these benefits count for nothing without the expert knowledge of the coaster designer.
When I design a roller coaster, I know how the guest feels when he sits afterwards in the train. You must have the experience. We use a special designed software which allows me to check the dynamic and G-forces of the coaster.
Otto's software not only calculates the dynamics of the ride, it also guarantees that it's safe. He ensures no rider's head, arms or legs can hit anything as they hurtle around the track. Gravity is also a consideration when designing a coaster. It's a force that affects us all, whatever we're doing, literally pulling us to the ground. Skydivers fall towards the earth under gravity, using parachutes to control their descent. Eventually, everything falls to earth. But in a theme park, the rides control this falling, exerting gravity forces, or G-forces, on our bodies. And G-forces are used to make the rides exciting. The easiest way to explain these is from this freefall ride. As the platform drops under gravity, there's no pressure from your seat, which makes you feel weightless. Seconds later, when the ride stops, your body sinks into the seat and you feel heavier as it exerts a stopping force on you. This is called positive G. The coaster uses a variety of G-forces to terrify. The track was designed so that you're either being forced into your seat, positive Gs, or feel like you're flying, negative Gs. A mixture of these around the track ensures you feel completely out of control. These forces were carefully considered. Too many Gs and you can be hurt. Too few and the rides will be boring. Not only have computers simplified the design process, they've also enabled us to identify and push up against the danger limits. With the design process complete, there's one more crucial step: marketing the product.
It's very, very useful for all the people that are going to be involved in marketing and making television commercials and doing all the graphics to get a feel of what the ride will actually feel like when you're riding it, long before we have the thing built and running, which is where these simulations work. You can actually see for yourself what the ride will be like, even though it doesn't actually exist out there on the park yet.
Once everyone was satisfied that the ride was safe and practical, it was time for construction. Tubular steel was bent and twisted to order. Every piece of track had to be positioned precisely to provide a smooth ride. Complicated control systems that handle huge electric currents had to be carefully assembled. The information they process will ensure the ride runs safely. Once the track is built, the next question is, how do you get the roller coaster up the lift hill?
Most roller coasters are not powered other than what gives the train the initial energy.
Once the riders are in the train and safely locked in, a chain or some form of mechanism takes them to a high point.
As the train is hauled up the lift hill by a large electric motor, it gains gravitational potential energy. This means it's ready to fall back to the station.
From then on, you're relying on gravity, if you like, to take it around the track. So the train will be dropping from a high point. As it does so, it's losing potential energy and it's gaining kinetic energy, in other words, energy of speed.
You just continue doing whatever the ride is throwing at you, the loops, the dips, or whatever.
As the coaster rolls, some of its gravitational potential energy is wasted in friction between the wheels and the track and as wind resistance. Every hill must be lower than the one before in order for the coaster to complete the circuit.
So that is why, because we don't have perpetual motion, unfortunately, eventually the ride has to come to an end. As the train is losing energy, it comes back towards the station and that last bit of energy is taken out of the train in the brakes.
So it's a very simple process. Take everyone to a high point and let them go, and let them freewheel all the way back to the station.
Simple or not, a more important question is it safe? Thousands of people ride these coasters every day, and although they want to be frightened, they also need to know that they're safe.
There are all sorts of safety mechanisms that are employed, such as the harnesses that contain you. These are constantly monitored to make sure that they are operating. If something is capable of taking so many kilos, then a safety factor of 10 or 20 or more will be employed to make sure that everything is operating well within the safety limits. And it has to be said that our industry has an extraordinarily good safety record, and safety is something that we always put to the forefront of everything. If a ride isn't going to be safe, we wouldn't consider operating it.
It gives you a heart attack. That's so scary. It's like, do you think you're going to fall down? It went like upside down and you feel smack into the wall and stuff. Like, well.
Figures show that you're probably at 200,000 times more risk driving to the park than anything you're going to do inside it.
Every day before the park opens, the rides are checked to ensure everything is operating smoothly and safely. These lights below the wheels are actually heaters. On cold mornings, these warm the grease in the bearings to lubricate and reduce running friction. If the heaters were not used, the train might lose too much energy in friction and stop midway round the track. This room is filled with electronics that control and monitor the coaster on its run. Motion sensors on the track are triggered as the train passes certain points on the circuit. If a sensor isn't triggered, this indicates the coaster has got stuck midway round the track. Computers prevent any other train leaving the station until the problem is solved and the coaster is safe to run again. There are other safety features that are part of the design of the roller coaster train itself.
Very few people realise that the roller coaster train is actually clamped onto the track. It cannot lift off the track because there are wheels below the track, there are wheels above the track, and there are wheels on the side of the track. So in effect, the thing is completely clamped onto the track, and therefore it's impossible for it to leave the track, regardless of how you turn the track upside down or on its side or twist it round. The train rolls around the track and is completely captive.
One of the most frightening aspects of a coaster is the loop. Modern coaster loops have a distinctive teardrop shape, rather than being circular.
A circular loop implies that you'll be travelling through that loop at constant velocity. As you go up, you're losing kinetic energy and gaining potential energy, and as a consequence you're losing velocity.
On a circular loop, this would create the unpleasant sensation that you are falling out of the train.
In order to produce a G-force which holds you into your seat, you need to tighten up the radius. So most loops on roller coasters have quite a complicated geometry whereby the radius is tightening up as it goes to the very top, and then you come back down again and the radius opens out again at the bottom as you gain speed. The science of creating a loop that is safe and comfortable is a very complicated one, and hence the need for this very complicated geometry.
With 10 tons of coaster to stop, it's important that the brakes are fail-safe.
Nowadays, magnetic inductive braking is being used more and more, where there is no actual contact and therefore no wear and tear between the brake and the brake pad, and you use magnetic forces to do the braking, which provides you with a nice, smooth, completely fail-safe braking force.
This roller coaster originated as an elaborate concept, was then visualised in black and white as lines on a plan, giving the coaster its backbone. Developed through sophisticated computer-aided design techniques and three-dimensional simulations, ultimately to become the world's first roller coaster with 10 stomach-churning loops, Colossus.
When you're on a ride, for that 2 minutes, you're not in control. That machine controls your destiny. You're leaving your troubles at the main gate. You're walking into another world. A good theme park ride is one that leaves you wanting more. From the moment you sit on it, you're getting excited. You can't wait for it to start. And all around the ride, you haven't got a moment to stop and think about it. You're just too busy enjoying it. The excitement's getting to you, the blood's flowing, the adrenaline's rushing. You're just enjoying every second of it, maybe even screaming, as some people do. And when you get to the end of the ride, all you want to do is go back on again. That is what makes a good ride.
Using high-tech software, designers can build imaginary coasters on a computer, then take a 3D test to check that the new ride will impress the public. With all this design technology available, modern roller coasters should be ever more impressive and extreme, terrifying us whilst bringing us back in one piece. The roller coaster industry is incredibly competitive. Plans are kept top secret until a new ride is being constructed. This kind of atmosphere, coupled with advances in computer technology, will guarantee that coasters of the future will be higher, faster, and more frightening than the ones we know today. Every new ride is the result of real science.